grab a seat in the upcoming networking intensive to craft a winning networking strategy. This is a 3-hour live masterclass led by a former Bain consultant, Jenny Ray LaRue, who's also Management Consultant's CEO. We're really excited for this session. And it will share common networking mistakes to avoid and the 3 critical keys to securing a winning networking referral. The intensive takes place on June 12th of 2023. That's June 12th, 2023. So grab a ticket. There are limited seats left. You'll find those in the show notes. Strategy Simplified, you're listening to Season 10, Episode 19. I can't believe that we're almost through 10 seasons of the podcast, and we just hit 300 episodes. That's incredible. Thank you for listening and tuning in every Wednesday and Friday. We really appreciate you. Today's episode features a live case interview. We know they're some of your favorite episodes. This one is led by former McKinsey associate partner Divya Agarwal, and it involves a manufacturer of airplanes that is struggling to turn a profit. The candidate, the guest, is a brave volunteer from the community, and he's tackling the case to see if he can chart a road back to profitability for this manufacturer. Make sure to listen all the way to the end as Divya breaks down the case, gives actionable feedback on the performance, and provides opportunities for growth and improvement. It's a really incredible learning opportunity. You can work with Divya one-on-one. She's available to coach you to interview success. You can grab just an hour or 2, or you can join our Black Belt Case Prep program for 8 hours of one-on-one coaching, plus resume and cover letter edits, online prep curriculum, and much more. We've just got a few spots left in the June cohort of our Black Belt program. Links in the show notes to learn more about all of this. In addition, for the charts and graphs from the session, there's a link in the show notes where you can see those for yourself. All right, let's get started.
I know you're ready. The thumbs up. Wonderful. So our client is Planestream, and Planestream is an American manufacturer of small-bodied passenger planes. It manufactures 2 types of planes: jet engine aircrafts, which can hold 80 to 100 passengers, and propeller aircrafts that can hold 20 to 30 passengers. In 2022, Planestream delivered 110 jet engine planes and 150 propeller planes. This represented revenue streams of $800 million and $200 million, respectively. Planestream is currently loss-making, and the executive team has hired you to chart a road back to profitability. So I'm going to give you the first question, and then I invite you to kind of just play back what you've heard. So the first question is, what would you consider or want to look at to start to understand why Planestream is currently loss-making?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a really interesting case, especially, after the pandemic, how the airline industry has been trying to get up to speed with everything. So just to confirm that I've gotten down all the facts rightly. So our client is Planestream. They're a manufacturer of small passenger planes, and they have 2 kind of planes. The first is a jet engine, and the second one is a propeller engine plane. So in 2022, they have manufactured 110 jet engine plane and 150 propeller engine planes, and the revenue from the jet engine is $800 million. And from the propellers, it's $200 million. So they are currently loss-making, and they want to become profitable, and they want to sort of consider what areas to look into. Did I get that right?
Yep.
Okay. So right off the top of my head, what I can think of is, since they're a smaller plane company, they don't really have a lot of options in their engine and in their seating arrangements or in the different services that they offer. So maybe there's something you can do there in order to increase the revenue and eventually make it profitable. But that's just my initial hypothesis. Having said that, I have a couple of clarifying questions, if that's okay with you.
Please.
Yeah. So the first thing that I wanted to find out is there any sort of timeline that they are considering, any specific objective in terms of exactly how much profitable they want to be and in what timeline?
Let's just assume that we want to be profitable in the next year or two.
Next year?
We have to report to our shareholders, so
okay.
we got to have results that are positive.
Okay. And is it safe to assume that they primarily operate in the United States?
We can assume that.
Okay. And outside, I know that they sell airline tickets for different routes. Outside of that, is there any other services that they offer or focus on?
We should actually assume that PlaneStream's main product are the actual planes.
Okay.
So not necessarily airlines, but their planes.
Okay.
So they're not necessarily selling tickets in that regard.
Okay. Yeah. All right. I understand. All right. I think I have the clarifying questions down. Is it okay if I take a couple of minutes and just sort out the structure?
Please do.
Thanks.
Apply to Stacks to work on exciting projects focused on private equity, strategy and growth, exit planning, operational improvements, and data and analytics. Stacks is a boutique strategy firm serving private equity firms and their portfolio companies across several industries, including tech, healthcare, consumer and retail, industrials, and more. The cool thing about Stacks, you'll get near equal exposure to each industry, making for a well-rounded consulting experience. Whether you're an undergraduate student, MBA candidate, experienced professional, or somewhere in between, Stacks has a role for you. Ready to up-level your career? See which roles the firm is hiring for and submit your application through the link in this episode's show notes or on the careers page at stacks.com. That's STAX.com.
Okay. So I think I have a rough structure down here. So I have primarily 3 buckets that I would like to consider. The first bucket is the financial bucket. The second bucket is the strategies bucket, and the third bucket is the market bucket. In the first bucket, under financial aspects, there's 2 sub buckets I'd like to consider. The first one is the revenue. The second one is the cost. So under the revenue bucket, I would like to know exactly how much do they sell their planes for, and what volume they sell it, what volume they usually sell. And also I would like to know exactly what kind of clients they sell it to, and if there's a way that we can look into that to increase some of the revenue there. And then under cost bucket,
Anu, when you say, is there a way to look into that specifically, what do you mean? What would you want to look at in the customer?
I mean, for example, if they sell it to a certain price to one of the clients, maybe there's a way we can increase that price. Maybe renegotiate the deal or something like that.
Okay.
And then under the revenue sub bucket, I'd also like to think about any of the other aspects that they provide, maybe some kind of insurance or something like that they can renegotiate and hence get their revenue up. Under the cost bucket, I would like to know exactly how much does it cost them to manufacture the planes, the raw materials, the access, how much access they have to the source materials and the suppliers, and just how much it costs for them to make the plane overall. Then under the second bucket, which is the strategies bucket, I'd like to know that if there's any way that they can increase their revenue in terms of selling to new clients, or just partnering with like another manufacturing company to have a better sort of joint partnership so that they can be more cost effective. Then finally, under the market bucket, I want to know what's their competition is like, and what are what's the general price of this kind of planes in the market, and also if there's like any broader macroeconomic risks or socioeconomic factors at play in the market. So having said that, since we are primarily focused on profitability, I would like to know if we have any particular revenue and cost figures that we can look into.
Perfect. So we do. Before we go there, I'm going to ask you two questions. So on the market, I heard you say, I'm curious what the competitors are doing. I heard you say something about price, and then I heard you say something about macro trends. Can you say a little bit more about each of those?
Yeah, sure. In terms of price, I'd like to, I was thinking that if the competitors are selling at a greater price than what our client is selling, and if they're also profitable, and if there's like a market-wide kind of thing where they're all becoming, selling their products at a loss and just a lesser demand overall. So I was thinking something along that line.
Okay, so I'll kind of clump maybe competitors and their pricing strategy as one thing. And then macro trends. Tell me about macro trends. What are you curious about understanding more?
There's two things under macro trends that I was curious about. One thing is, I know it's 2022 and travel hasn't picked up that much, like how it used to be probably in the pre-pandemic level. So I was thinking if the demand there is enough, and also how they have done over the years, if this company particularly have done well in the previous years, or if this is something that has happened in the recent years, and if based also in relation to how their competitors have been doing, if the competitors have like a new technology or something that has eaten into their market share, if this eaten into their customers, things like that.
Great. Okay, wonderful. So you asked about some financial data. Let's take a look. I am going to shortly share my screen, and I'm going to ask you to take a screenshot of what I show you, and then just reference it after I stop sharing my screen. And then I'll ask you my questions. Does that sound good? Okay. So here is some data.
Okay, thanks. Thanks for sharing the exhibit.
I'll stop sharing?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Okay. Let me give you 3 questions, and then I welcome you to share whatever or say whatever you'd like. So the first is, I'm going to want you to fill in the missing information. And then any insights and hypotheses that you have after you've looked at the data that you filled in.
Okay. Okay. I see the revenues that you gave me in the prompt of 800 million, and the percentage of revenue is 100%, and in the proper division I see 200 million, and the percentage of revenues is 100%. So that's the information that we walked through the prompt. I'm trying to look at any other insights that strikes out to me, the top of my head.
I think what'll help Anu is if you first fill in the chart.
Okay.
And then based on those numbers, see what insights you might have.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds great. 800. So I see 2 division that you gave me in the prompt, the jet division and the propeller division.
Yeah.
In the financials for the first segment, it's 800 million, and then the second is 200 million. And so I see 85% is the COGS. I'm thinking that 85% of the 800 million is the cost of the goods sold. Does that sound like a good estimate?
Can you say that once more?
I was thinking that 85% of the 800 million is the cost of the goods sold. Does that sound like a good estimate? Okay. And then 15% is the SG&A, and then 10% is the other costs. All right. So what I'm thinking is just filling out all the blanks and then subtracting that from the revenue, and then that way we can get the net income. Does that sound good?
Great.
Okay. All right. So for the jet engine division, 85%, 85% of 800 million. So I'm getting 700 million. So that's the COGS. And then for the SG&A, it's 15%. So 15% of 800 million.
Excuse me.
120 million. And then other costs is 10%. So 10% about 80 million. 80 million. So I'm getting the total cost considering the COGS, the SG&A, and the other costs to be around 900 million. So for the first division, which is the jet division, the net income is actually negative 100 million. Does that sound like a good number?
Close, yeah. Let's go with that.
Okay. And then I'm just going to do the same for the proper division as well now. So for the proper division, the revenue is 200 million. So this is 60%, the COGS, 60% would be 2. It's 120 million. Then for the SG and A, it's 15%. So 15% up to 100 million. So I'm getting $30 million. And then other costs, it's 15%. Other costs, it's 10%, up to 200 million. So that's 20 million. It's 20 million. So the total costs, including COGS, SG&A, and other costs, it's $170 million. Yeah, $170 million, and the revenue is $200 million. So I'm getting a net income of plus $30 million. Does that sound like a good number?
Great. And then overall economic profit, just given that last row.
Yeah, sure. So the cost of capital, it's 20 million, and for the jet division, and then for the propeller division, it's 10 million. So I'm just gonna subtract that from the net income. So the net income for the jet engine division is 900 million. So basically adding 20 million to that for the cost of capital, and that gives me negative 920 million. And then for the propeller division, it's I'm going to subtract 10 million from 30 million, so that gives me $20 million.
Great. And on the jet engine, you said economic profit is?
$20 million. Oh, sorry.
On the jet engine.
On the jet engine, it's negative $920 million. So that's the
negative 920?
Yeah, so that's the so the net income was negative $920 million, and then the cost of capital was negative $20 million. So
I think sorry, did you have the net income as negative 100 on the jet engine side?
Sorry,
Okay.
yeah, totally, my bad.
Not all
Yeah,
good. So
I got just confused by my notes here. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, it was negative $100 million, and then I added 20 million to that, so that should be negative $120 million. Yeah, that figure didn't make sense there. Yeah.
Great.
So yeah.
So tell me, what strikes you from now that you have the full table and full picture of the data? What insights and potential hypotheses do you see?
So right off the top of my head, I can see that the propeller division is profitable, but the jet division is not. So I think there's something we can do here. I see that one of the main reasons is the high cost of goods sold for the jet engine division. And so maybe, we can source the goods from other suppliers or just ramp up the in-house production some way, just to have a more streamlined and more cost-effective process. So something that would help us to bring the cost down.
Okay. When you say ramp up in-house production to keep the cost of goods sold, what do you mean by that?
I mean,
how How would that keep our cost of goods sold down?
So sometimes if you manufacture something in-house, that would cost you less compared to if you outsource some of the parts from other manufacturers. So, I'm not exactly sure what kind of parts goes into making a jet engine, but maybe something along the lines of maybe we can manufacture some of the seats or some of the floorboards or something, just in-house, and some of the other parts, like I don't know if they manufacture the engine in-house or if they get it from somewhere else, but maybe something we can do about that. Just something. I know that for a fact that, SpaceX, for example, they manufacture a lot of their parts in-house, and that's what makes them very cost effective. So something like that, it's our client can do.
And what might be the reason that the COGS for jet engine is higher?
The technology in the first place, the engine itself, it takes in more power, and so that's one of the reasons. And the other reason I can think of is, so you told me initially that the jet engine can house 80 to 100 passengers. So I think that it's a bigger plane compared to the propeller division. So that's one of the other reasons why the costs are higher. Other than that, I can just, the engine costs, the parts, maybe there's a premium in the parts compared to the propeller plane. So that's what I can think of. I can think of something else. If you want me to, I can try to think of a couple.
All good. I was just curious what kind of struck you from the data that you ended up being able to identify. So we're going to look at a little bit more data together. I'm going to show you in a moment the cost breakdown of the jet engine manufacturing and a little bit about our customers on the jet engine side.
Okay, sounds good.
And as you're absorbing the data, would welcome reflections, insights that you gather from the data itself. So I'll share my screen momentarily.
Yeah. Okay. Would you like me to take a screenshot of this?
Yeah, if it's not too much trouble, so you can at least keep looking at it.
Of course.
We'll be right back after this quick break.
Have you ever heard a new digital trend and thought to yourself, okay, does this really matter? Asking the right questions helps you cut through the noise and get down to what matters most. I'm Jim Hertzfeld, host of the What If, So What podcast, where we discover what's possible with digital and figure out how to make it real by asking what if, so what, and most importantly, now what? Subscribe and listen, and together we can turn big ideas into tangible actions so you can get shit done.
Okay, so in this exhibit, I see the jet engine division breakdown and the jet engine customer segment breakdown. I see the different kind of costs, the fixed cost and the variable cost per aircraft. And then in the jet engine customer segment breakdown, I can see the different revenue segments where their planes are sold to. And I see that the lessors, that's the highest segment, followed by the corporate customers, and then the UHNW individuals. So what I can do from here is, if we have I can calculate the total cost depending on how many aircrafts we are manufacturing, and then I can calculate the revenue. I can calculate the total revenue from each of the segments. Does that sound like a good plan to move forward?
Yeah, tell me why you would do that.
So, so what I can do is, if we have the I can calculate the cost depending on how many aircrafts we are manufacturing, and then I can calculate the revenue from each of the segments. Does that sound like a good plan to move forward?
Yeah, tell me why you would do that.
the way I'm thinking about this is, so if I have those numbers, then I can calculate the profitability based on the revenue that we have and the cost that we have here. So that way we can understand exactly what's contributing to the loss.
Great.
Okay. So you told me initially that we are selling 110 jet engine planes.
Yes.
Okay. So 110.
And I might nudge you a little bit to say, Anu, in this chart, you actually see the number of planes that are being sold by customer segment. So unclear if you need the full 110 versus a different number.
Okay. Yeah. I see it here. Yeah.
Great.
Okay. So in the first segment, which is the UHNW individuals, I see the revenue is 90 million and the number of customers is 10, number of planes sold is 10. So I'm assuming that it's the revenue that's given here is based on each customer and each plane sold, or is it the total revenue?
So if I were thinking about this at like an income statement level, that top line number for, let's say, corporate customers means after we sold 40 planes, we made $320 million. Does that answer your question?
Okay. Yeah, that sounds good.
Perfect.
Yeah. Okay. So for the UHNW individuals, we are making $10 million for 10 planes sold. Then for the corporate one, it's $320 million for 40 planes sold. I'm just jotting down the numbers so to make the calculations a little easier. 60 planes sold. Okay. So from this, I can calculate the revenue for each of the aircraft, for each of the planes sold, and then
for each of the planes sold, or for each of the customer segments? What's the kind of unit on which you're calculating profitability? What is the profitability that you care about right now?
So I see that the cost per aircraft on the left-hand side, and then the revenues for all the planes sold. So what I'm thinking is that we have the revenue for the different customer segments. So I can divide that by the total number of planes sold for each of the segment, and that way I can get the revenue for each of the planes sold in each of the customer segments.
Okay. Yeah. Either doing it at the plane level per customer segment or total level, same thing, but sounds good.
Okay.
Sounds good.
All right. So for the UHNW, it's 90 million and 10 planes sold. So it's 9 million for each of the planes.
Great.
And then for the corporate one, it's 320 million divided by 40. So it's 8 million for each of the planes sold. And then for the lesser segment, it's 390 divided by 60. So which is roughly around it's $6.5 million. Is that okay if I
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So then I see that the number of customers is 10 for the UHNW individuals and 13 for corporate and 4 for lessors. So I think that some of the customers might be responsible for a larger share of the revenue than some others. Like for example, in the UHNW there's 10 customers, so one customer might buy 2 planes, the other customer might buy 1 plane. So
Anu,
So
I'm
I'm-
going to ask you a question. So you
Yeah.
had started by saying, I'm interested in profitability.
okay, all right, got it.
So let's stay
Alright,
with
got it.
profitability
Okay, all right,
just to
thanks.
start.
Thanks. Okay, all right.
So what
I
can
have
you
the-
tell? Yeah, what can you tell about the profitability by customer
Okay.
segment?
Okay, so the fixed cost and the variable cost and the total cost is 8 million. So what I can do is subtract the cost from each of the revenue that I got from each of the
Okay.
customer segment,
Great.
then get a profitability number. So for the first one, which is UHNW, I'm getting a profitability of $1 million. Then for the next one, I'm getting a profitability of $2 million for the corporate. Then for the third one, I'm getting a loss of $1.5 million.
Okay, and what was your corporate profitability?
It was $2 million.
What was
sorry,
the-
it was I'm wrong. My bad. It was zero.
Okay.
It was break even, so zero.
So right away, what can you discern from that?
So right away, I can discern that the UHNW is the profitable segment,
Okay.
and
And
the
what percentage of our customers are the UNH or UHNW customers?
so the total number of customers that we have here is 10 plus 13 plus 4. So that's 27 customers. And then 10%, 10 of 27. I would say roughly around 30%.
Yeah, like a
of the
third,
customer-
right?
Yeah, like 30% of the customers is UHNW individuals. So that's a huge chunk of our customers. But then we also have to think about the corporate customers, because that accounts for a greater percentage, even though it's they're not making any profit on it, but they're also not making any loss on it. And the lesser one, they're making a loss on it. So that's the most loss-making segment that we have. So what I can think about proceeding from this is maybe find a way to get more UHNW customers because
Okay.
they are the most profit-making customers we have, and then also find a way to maybe increase the revenue from the corporate customers, because we are break even and we have a huge chunk of corporate customers, so they can be profitable as well.
Great. Excellent, Anu. Let's call that the case.
Okay.
You're out of the hot seat.
Okay.
We just pause and check in with you. How are you feeling?
We'll be right back after this quick break. Are you looking for your next role in consulting? Then Investor Group Services, or IGS, needs to be on your list of target firms. At IGS, you'll work closely with senior firm leaders to help private equity and corporate clients make better investment and strategic decisions. The work at IGS involves a blend of research and strategic consulting, along with plenty of collaboration with client stakeholders. Find out for yourself if IGS is the perfect fit for you via the link in this episode's show notes or at igsboston.com.
I think I could have done better in some of the areas of the calculations I performed.
Tell me more about what do you mean by doing better? Why do you feel that way?
I feel like I just went deeper into the information rather than like especially the exhibits. I could have just taken a moment to go through them and understand it better from a higher level rather than diving deep into them and getting a better insight that way. And also, I feel like I made some more mistakes in my calculation that have been avoided. And then, I feel like I could have done the brainstorming better when you asked me about the difference, why the jet engine is making more money. I mean, why the jet engine and the cost of goods sold is more for the jet engines compared to the proper division. So that's
okay.
That's what I think.
I want to say congratulations first. I know it's always tough to be in a case interview and also to be kind of in the hot seat. That is the situation. So mazel tov, kudos, well done. I think this was a good case. I want to say a few things that stood out to me as gifts that you have that I'm hoping that you take forward. So one is, regardless of if you're feeling flustered, Anu, I was not able to tell at all. And that's a testament to your just presence and the ability to stay calm. So I have no idea if you were actually feeling like things were difficult or not, but you kept your cool and it was a very comfortable conversation.
Oh, yeah. Cool.
The second is, and this is where we'll talk about what I want to see more from you in a moment, the general understanding of kind of business, having good ideas, a lot of that is there. The next step for you will be how to really structure that, right, and communicate it in a way that flows. And we'll go through that in much more specificity. I want to start with a few, before we go question by question, what I'll call more just basic presence things that I think can actually go a long way, just to actually the experience that both you and I are going to have in the interview will be better. So one is, and I'm going to have you practice this over the next 10 minutes that we have together, is I want you to look at me and talk with me. So in the interview, yes, you have an interviewer in front of you. What I tell my clients is the more that you can imagine you're speaking to the actual client, like pretend that I'm Planestream and basically have a conversation with me as Planestream. And that will, at least what I've observed is that frankly lowers the pressure a little bit because you actually just get more interested in the person in front of you, the interviewer / the client. And then it might calm the nerves, but also just makes it for a better experience. So that would be one, is look at me and talk to me.
Okay.
The second is, I imagine many of us have gotten this feedback in the past, is the more you can slow down your speaking, whether it's taking a breath, allowing yourself to pause, I actually think that will be in service of what you notice, which is correct, that you will actually give yourself the time to look at data, to think about the problem, take some silence, and then come back with a perspective. So allow yourself, and I would say that when you're in your practice sessions, I would actually record yourself. I know we're actually recording our voices here. I would encourage you to record your voice in any session you have, so when you hear yourself, you can start to just understand what that experience is.
Okay.
The third, big picture I share with folks is I like to say assert, don't ask. And what I mean specifically is you never need to ask me for permission to take time or to collect your thoughts.
Okay.
So no need to say, is it okay that I'm going to take time? Does it sound like a good plan? I want you to have a few phrases in your pocket, such as, I'm going to take a few moments to collect my thoughts. Great. As an interviewer, I expect that you're going to do that. And the other beauty of it is it doesn't waste time, right? Time is already a precious element in an interview. And we already know that that's going to be the protocol you'll take, is you'll take some time and go heads down. And so just have your sentence and keep to it. And that goes for, I think the second level of that is when you're doing math problems or having an answer on something, I want to know that you feel good about the answer that you're offering, right? You may have questions about some of the calculations, but from my calculations, I see that we have a market share of 20 to 30%. That seems reasonable given XYZ, or it doesn't seem reasonable given XYZ. But I want you to come and assert a point of view. And then finally, before I go into detailed questions, with regard to your notes, I wasn't sure what your note situation is. I know there was a moment in our conversation where you said you were confused by your notes. So I wanted to just say, maybe you do this, but I say to folks, you've probably been given the hack of draw the line down one piece of paper and put the information that you were given and then have this as your play space. The second hack I give that at least works for me is having a piece of paper per question, and then always kind of putting a big box around the answer or the insights from that question, because sometimes the interviewer will also give you insights, right? And at the end of the interview, you'll likely get one of those, what's your recommendation or what's your synthesis? And it's sometimes easier when you can just look at the 4 or 5 pieces of paper in front of you and distill the big things. Okay. Any big questions on that before we go question by question?
No, I think it's really helpful. What your suggestions and what you just told me. Yeah.
Okay.
I took them, note them down, so I'll definitely keep that.
Okay, great. So on the first question, I liked the tree overall. So you had a level 1, I'll call it, and a level 2. Your level 1 was financial, strategy, the market. Level 2 within financial was revenue and cost, and you gave me some details around those. Level 2 on strategy, I'm going to come back to the strategy bucket in a moment. And level 2 on market was competitors and then the macro trends. I think 2 things I want to say about this tree. A good smell test for you always in a tree is when I think about the things I'm talking to my client or my interviewer about, can these apply to any industry or are these specific to the airline manufacturer industry? For me, where it got specific was when I pushed you on macro trends, when you talked about the demand for planes. And I really liked your point. Is our profitability decline, is this what we've always been? Have we always been a loss maker? Or is this something new because of the pandemic? Are other competitors loss makers? Like, I liked that level of specificity. So I'm going to push you to think about the level 3 tree, which is against each of the things you said. What is a specific piece that would be relevant to this industry? And as a reminder, you don't need to know the industries in detail to do that. The more you can embody that you're an airline manufacturer, your SpaceX example was amazing. So when you're even talking about customer and clients, you might say, or even a learning that you had from SpaceX, you might say, one thing I know about what SpaceX has done is they brought their manufacturing in-house. And so when I'm looking at this cost bucket, I'll be curious to look at what we're doing. That in and of itself gives you specificity, and it would be a really cool thing. The second thing I want to say about your tree is, I'll say watch for me see, and I didn't mean to rhyme there. So you had a bucket called strategy. And in that bucket, you talked about what we could do around price and volume and learning from our competitors and maybe like customer segment strategy. Be careful because technically the things you're going to do to maximize your financials would actually come in your first bucket. Right?
I was thinking more like, selling to new customers or maybe selling new products, maybe other kind of planes, or, acquire another company. I know the plant is relatively small, so that might not be one of the options, but something along those lines. In my first bucket, it was more like maximizing the revenue from our existing client
I
base.
see. So I might call that
So
like
maybe
steady state. Okay.
I didn't communicate well enough, I think.
No.
Yeah.
That's helpful. That's a
So-
really helpful distinction. I think it's fair to have like, what's our financial picture today and what are growth opportunities?
Yeah.
And so that I think is then where the more you refine and practice the communication around specificity, that'll be good because I want you to know why you're saying what you're saying. And I also think slowing down and giving yourself some time will allow you to say, when I'm saying strategy, what I really mean is like, what level of growth can we capture, even ignoring where the market's going, just strategically, what can we be capturing more of? Okay, that's a helpful clarification. Thank you. I'm going to jump us to the second question. And so again, you get to take your time and absorb the data. So on math questions specifically, I like to give, and I'll send you my little like cheat sheet after our interview. I like to give like a systematic way of thinking about the math problem. So first is always play back the question that's being asked of you. Always, right? So I made it specific to say, Anu, I'm going to pause you and I'm going to give you 2 questions. I want you to literally play back those questions, even if it sounds redundant, because that allows you to ground yourself in the question. And also, frankly, buys you some time to just like get your bearings. Level 2 or step 2 is you get to look at the data and just say what it is that you're seeing. Okay, great. So we basically had an income statement of our 2 big products, jet engines and propellers. You're not giving me any insights. You're not giving me hypotheses. That's fine. But you're just saying out loud what we have. And we know that we need to actually fill in the remaining information. Then step 3 is, and as you did, you basically laid out the conceptual approach of what you're going to do to fill in the information. So you said, like for COGS, I see that it's 85% of revenues. I'm going to take 85% by 800 to get the COGS number. And I'm basically going to do that for all the rest of the cells. At that point, Anu, I want to say to you, then you don't need to say out loud anything else. You can quickly go and just do the math. Because at that point, what I care about as an interviewer is your conceptual approach. And this is a very important point on the math problems, because candidates often get nervous that I didn't do the algebra arithmetic right. I'm less concerned if you mess up, 100 minus 20 versus 900 minus 20, as long as the roadmap that you had to get there made sense. And so I wasn't worried about your basic analytics skill, because you got how to fill in the numbers, right? I'm going to land a conceptual point here that's going to be really important for any case interview, this idea of what I'll call gross margin or unit profitability. So one thing I wanted you to notice in the second question, and then it also became relevant to the third question, is yes, we have a higher COGS per plane. So to say it in like very unit-based terms, for every dollar of revenue we're making, we're spending about 66 cents on a jet engine. And for every dollar we're making on the propeller, we're spending 40 cents. So at that point, and this is like a very important math or like analytic thinking point, the number of passengers to some extent doesn't matter, because we don't make money off of passengers. We make money off of like the hardware, the plane. And so I would just say to you, get clear and really deep on this idea of gross margin, because anytime you want to think about a profitability case, ultimately it comes down to like unit profitability, which gross margin is a fancy word for that.
Yeah. So by that you mean, like, for example, the ultra high net worth individuals had a higher gross margin than the other. That's right.
Exactly. So, and to your point, maybe we should get more of these high worth individuals because they're more profitable. And by the way, they're a smaller volume market. So our lessors they make up a big part of our revenue. So we got to figure out maybe how to extract more dollars from our lessors and corporate clients, which is what you said. Yeah. But starting at, because it was a profitability question, starting at profitability always will be helpful.
One of the things I was thinking is maybe I got stuck in the weed too much, but out of the 10 USMW, maybe one customer spends more, so maybe we have a better relationship with that customer and we can try to sell more to that customer specifically, like on a deeper unit basis, something like that. But I think I was going off track there.
Well, you can, but there's like a phrase that I know at McKinsey we love. I don't know if other consulting firms love it, like the 80-20 world. Like, what's the biggest, most high ROI answer or intervention here? At the highest level, we know, even though only a third of our revenue are coming from these really wealthy individuals, they're also our most profitable segment. That's probably not that surprising either. So do we believe that we can actually expand this part of our pie? If not, then I actually think your point around corporate customers is the way to go. We just have to figure out if there's a pricing strategy there to extract more.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Strategy Simplified as we get almost to the end of season 10. We love hearing your thoughts about the podcast, so leave us a rating and review. We love reading those reviews every week. And if you do leave a review on Apple Podcasts specifically, take a screenshot, email podcast@managementconsultant.com to let us know, and you'll be entered to win a free consulting prep course. We look forward to having you join us in the upcoming Networking Intensive or Black Belt. Links in the show notes to learn more and join today. Thanks again for listening.